Hey everybody, it's ScomletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we're going to be playing a Fynn the Fangbearer Historic Brawl deck. This is a poison themed deck. We're trying to get 10 poison counters on our opponents. If we do, they will automatically lose the game. The way we do that is with our commander, Fynn the Fangbearer, a 2-mana 1/3 Death Toucher that is going to make it so when any creature we control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player will get 2 poison counters. So we just have to hit our opponent 5 times with Death Touchers. We're playing this poison-themed deck in preparation for Phyrexia All Will Be One. A little bit of a celebration. We are 1 week away from the Phyrexia All Will Be One pre-release, and we're going to get plenty more poisonous tools in that upcoming set, as well as more proliferate cards. So this is just a glimpse at what's to come a week from now. There will be even more efficient ways to try to poison your opponent out. So for now, with the Fynn the Fangbearer deck, we are running pretty much every Death Toucher on Arena. I think there's 2 or 3 that we aren't playing because they're just that inefficient, but we're running most of them. I think like Ornery Dilophosaur was the absolute cutoff for me, the 4-mana 2/2 Death Touch, but I'm not running like the 2-mana 2/2 that you have to spend 3 mana to give it Death Touch, because the vast majority of the time we just need to be playing more cards, getting more stuff on the board in the meantime. And I think there's another like 4-mana 2/2 Death Touch with no other text or something like that that we're not playing. But generally, we are running the vast majority of them. We're certainly running all of the very efficient Death Touchers, like 1-mana 1/1 Death Touchers, like Fang of Shigeki, Moss Viper, Narnam Renegade, Sedge Scorpion, Tajuru Blightblade, and so on and so forth. Those are all pretty self-explanatory, as are Daggerback Basilisk, Deathbloom Gardener, Jewel-Eyed Cobra, stuff like that. So that is the main core of the deck, just a bunch of creatures with Death Touch. That part is super simple, but there's a little bit more going on here. We also have a bit of an elf sub-theme. The reason behind that is that there aren't enough Death Touchers to run a deck off of entirely death-touching creatures, and there are some cards like Ren's Run Vanquisher that really wants us to have an elf in our hand to be able to cast this for only 2 mana. So right there we already want to play a lot of elves, so decided to have most of our filler slots in the deck be filled up by elf creatures. A lot of them are nice little mana dorks like Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elves to help us get up to our big game enders. Cards like Hornet Queen that make it really easy to get those poison counters on our opponents, or big finishers like Craterhoof Behemoth. But we also have some just various utility elves in here. We have Reclamation Sage being main deckable artifact and enchantment removal. We have Fauna Shaman being a really nice tutor in this deck, letting us discard some random synergy elf for another Death Toucher when we need it. Or if we need a big finisher, we can tutor out our Hornet Queen. If we need artifact or enchantment removal, we can tutor out our Reclamation Sage. So some nice utility elves in here. And then because we are running a decent amount of elves to help Ren's Run Vanquisher and just a lot of utility elves, we are also playing Elvish War Master, which is kind of like another finisher, because for the most part, it's going to be a 2-mana 2/2 elf that maybe gets us a few extra elves. But then if we do make it to 7 mana, we can give all of our elves that +2/+2 in Death Touch and have an additional way to get some extra poison counters in there. So that's the elf sub-theme in the deck. I do want to mention another thing about this deck that's a little bit worth noting, is that Craterhoof Behemoth, it's not just in here because it is the best green finisher in this format. It's also just specifically good with Death Touch. If you can give your creature Death Touch and Trample, Death Touchers only have to assign 1 damage to each creature blocking them, and then they can just trample over everything else, because 1 damage is lethal combat damage to the blocker. So if you play a Craterhoof Behemoth and you just have a bunch of 3/3 or 4/4 Death Touchers, that's still big enough to force your opponent to block that Death Toucher with 3 or 4 creatures to stop them from getting any poison counters from it if you have Fynn on the board. So again, giving trample to your Death Touchers, very, very powerful way to make it super difficult for your opponent to stop you from touching them with them and giving them the poison counters. So we do have the Craterhoof Behemoth at the very top end of the curve to do that, but we also have Glorious Sunrise at 5 mana that can give the whole board +1/+1 trample, again giving us that Death Touch trample synergy. And we have Vivian Arcbow Ranger, incredibly good in this deck because the +1 and the -3 both work really, really well with the Death Touchers. Again, the +1 giving 2 of our Death Touchers trample until end of turn, as well as a +1/+1 counter to turn them into 2/2 Death Touch tramples or 3/3 Death Touch tramples. And then the -3 ability, when a lot of your creatures are Death Touchers, is a very efficient way to kill pretty much any creature on the board. So Vivian is super nice in this deck. We also run a ton of Vivian-style removal, because you do want to have removal spells, and we really want to clear the path, because all our Death Touchers are really, really small, so it's relatively easy for our opponent to trade off into them, so we want to make sure we have a lot of removal to clear the path, keep our Death Touchers on board, and make sure we're keeping those poison counters coming. So we have Bite Down, Devouring Tendrils, Master's Rebuke, Nature's Way, Rabid Bite, Ram Through, Smell Fear, and Sylvan Smite. These are pretty much all just target creature you controls, deals damage equal to its power to a creature you don't control. We don't really want them to be fight spells because all our Death Touchers are really small. They will die in a fight, so it would just be a trade if we use something that fights. So we're using all the ones that are just our creature deals damage and doesn't receive damage back. Now there is one exception to that. Smell Fear is a fight spell, but I think it's worth it in this deck because it also proliferates, and Proliferate is a way to get more poison counters on your opponent without actually having to hit them with your Death Touchers, or in the future with your toxic creatures, and Phyrexia all will be one. So with that Proliferate, we get some more late game longevity, some alternate ways to get the last few points of poison. So we are running some Proliferate in here between Smell Fear, Karn's Bastion, where is it at? Evolution Sage proliferating as we play lands, and like Pollen Bright Druid proliferating when it hits the board. So a few proliferate cards in here to get another poison counter on our opponent without having to actually hit them. We're also running a bunch of protection for Fynn the Fangbearer because Fynn is tremendously important to our deck strategy. If Fynn dies in the early game too many times and costs a lot of mana to play, we don't really have a way to win the game fast enough. Technically, we could eventually grind it out with a bunch of Death Touchers just trying to block everything our opponent's doing, but most Historic Brawl decks are more than powerful enough to just beat a bunch of random Death Touchers that aren't doing anything special, so we really, really need Fynn. So we have tons of ways to protect Fynn. We have Blossoming Defense, Ranger's Guile, and Snakeskin Veil to give Fynn Hexproof. We also have Tamiyo's Safekeeping, which gives Hexproof and Indestructible, and Gaia's Gift, which gives Hexproof and Indestructible, and Heroic Intervention, which gives Hexproof and Indestructible. So tons of ways to protect Fynn against targeted removal, to keep Fynn on the board, keep our Death Touchers getting those poison counters. Other than that, we do have a Basilisk Collar here to give our non-Death Touchers Death Touch, so that we have more ways to get the poison in. Again, we do have a lot of random utility elves in here, and just some utility creatures in general. So adding Death Touch to those gives us more ways to get poison on our opponent, and a few more ways to get unblockable. We have the Access Tunnel as one of our lands, making our nice little Death Touchers get in unblocked, and Key to the City doing the same thing. We have to discard a card to do it with this, but we do give a creature unblockable, then we can draw a card off this the next turn. And Wings of Hubris puts our creatures into the sky, and whenever our opponent is at 8 poison, we are pretty okay with sacrificing the wings to make our creature completely unblockable and shoot them down to 10 poison counters. So that is pretty much everything in the deck. Pretty spicy deck today, just trying to get some poison counters on our opponents and give them a taste of what's to come. So without further ado, let's go poison some people out. Alright, we are against a 5-color good stuff deck here, Essica, God of the Tree, usually trying to cast the Prismatic Bridge to keep getting gigantic creatures and planeswalkers onto the board for free. This is a matchup we have to just try to race as quickly as possible, and our hand is pretty slow. We have the 1 Rabid Bite for removal, That, of course, not going to kill a prismatic bridge. And then we just have a bunch of mana. So this is going to be a mulligan for us. We will take the free mulligan. This is a pretty fast, just kind of elves-based hand here. I guess we keep it. Kind of weird not to have any death touchers here. We're not really doing the Fynn game plan, but relatively powerful on the elves front. Petria Triumph will start things from our opponent. Turn 1 Elvish Mystic, ramp ourselves up here. Go for a turn 3 Vivian, try to speed things up. Turn 2 Arcane Signet, they are ramping as well. Get to play Fynn and hold up Blossoming Defense. Just gonna do that. Blossoming Defense the Fynn in response to their removal spell here to keep it on board. Now I have no instant speed way to protect Fynn anyway, so we may as well Vivian this turn.
Civilization has
Just gonna make Fynn as big as possible, so it's as hard as possible for them to kill Fynn.
This will be fun to watch.
And get 2 poison counters on them. Now they are at the mana where if they play a land here, an untapped land, they could just slam down a prismatic bridge. Alright, that's an untapped land and prismatic bridge it's gonna be. Can hold up a ram through at instant speed. So I think I'm gonna go War Master, hold up ram through. I'm gonna go Fraley's hold up ram through. I'm actually that impressed by the extra 2 damage from War Master. So let's get this closer to actually popping off.
We're fit enough to survive.
Put them down to 12 and 4 poison counters. Kenrith the Returned King is really threatening when they didn't have to spend any mana on it, so they can just use all these activated abilities here. Into the north for some mana ramp. Courier's Briefcase. I think I can actually just win the game here. Off of Ram through during my turn. Because if I use Vivian to give Fynn Trample, we've got Death Touch and Trample, so the excess damage is going to be a lot. And Ram through will deal the excess damage to the controller. Oh wow, with a Rhonas as well. I guess I don't have the mana to use the Rhonas here. But it will be good if we don't find lethal this turn, but I think we might. So we actually just put all the counters on Fynn to make the maximum amount of ram through Death Touch Trample here. At least they have 2 mana up for potential instant. It could get me with that. Let's see. If this resolves, we're probably going to win the game. If it doesn't resolve, we are going to have a bad time. Alright, resolves, trample over for a ton. Yeah, trample for 5, 6, 7. That's exact lethal. If they don't have a response here. Oh no, put them to 1 because they don't have to block Fynn. Yeah, 1 damage off. And here's the Rhonas. There's a Golos for our opponent with all of the mana up to spin the wheel off of it, try to get some free spells. That could turn things around. That'd be a huge recovery from our opponent. We'll see. Alright. They do get Binding the Old Gods to blow up Fynn, but we'll still have 2 creatures on the board. Because we can use Vivian to buff the Mystic, and then Mystic and Rhonas do get to attack. And they only have 1 blocker, and we only need to do 1 damage. Okay. I should just buff both of them.
My, how you've grown.
And there we go. Just a classic, regular, lethal. We did get them to 6 poison counters though, and if I chose to recast Fynn that turn, I could have gotten them to 8 poison. So while it wasn't a poison victory, it was kind of close to being able to be both. So, I don't know. We'll take it. It's still a W. Kind of an awkward hand here. We have 2 ways to protect Fynn and 1 way to blow up an opposing threat, but we don't have any Death Touchers. Playing against Captain Sisay here. This is a matchup where we do really need to just kill the captain, so I think I'll actually keep here and just entirely play kind of a long, sort of controlling game here. There are a lot of powerful legends on Arena, though. So even if they don't get to use their commander, just them slamming down legendary cards every turn could outpace this hand, which would be an issue. Okay, there's Paradise Druid. I'm just going to slam down Fynn here because I highly doubt they're going to choose to kill Fynn when they could just play Captain Sisay. Yeah, play Captain Sisay it is. They do have 1 mana up to potentially protect the captain, but let's hope it doesn't pan out. Okay, they don't have the 1 mana protection. Don't have a 1 mana Death Toucher to play, so I'm just going to hold up my hexproof spells here. They're 1 mana away from recasting the captain, so they play Relic of Legends. And Growing Rites of Itlamok, they can definitely recast their commander next turn. But for now, we just get a little bit more poison on our opponent and set up a mana dork. Basilisk Collar, so we could even give the mana dork Death Touch. It's tempting. I think I'm going to go War Master, Llanowar Elves, and hold up a hexproof spell, though. Just in case, again, they choose to kill Fynn instead of playing their commander here. Make sure that won't pan out for them. Okay, play the commander it is. Humble Naturalist for a mana dork. One mana away from Plane-Wide Celebration. We Basilisk Collar this elf warrior and hold up my 2 different tricks. Because I don't want to offer a trade with Llanowar Elves here, or Elvish Warmaster, really. Okay, block there, take 2 poison. Put the collar on the War Master and I'm still holding up 1 of my tricks. That seems fine to me. The Captain Sisay for, what would the worst be? Even Urza's Ruinous Blast isn't that bad because I still keep Fynn. I guess they could just find some targeted removal. Ooh, Paradox Engine. That's right, Paradox Engine's banned in Commander, but sure ain't banned in Historic Brawl. This is probably bad. They're probably just going to combo off here. Yeah, Paradox Engine Captain Sisay, that's just unstoppable, right? They're getting 4 mana every time. They can cast every single legendary card in their entire deck that costs 4 mana or less. I guess 3 mana or less. Does this only tap legendary creatures? Yeah. So they can cast every legendary in their deck that costs 3 or less, and everything that costs less than 3 mana is letting them go up in mana, so they can pretty much just cast every legend in their deck, so we gotta just scoop here. Well, that was rough. I was hoping it was just like a Captain Sisay aggro deck, like the kind of stuff I've built before, but Captain Sisay Paradox Engine, that is just not beatable. Just have to keep killing the Captain Sisay. So great matchup for control decks. Pretty bad matchup for our deck, unfortunately. Another 5-color good stuff deck here. Golos Tireless Pilgrim picks up a land when it enters the battlefield and then uses all of their mana to start casting gigantic spells out of their deck. Very scary commander. We don't have immediate death touchers to go with Fynn. We do have good later game ones. So we'll keep the hand. We also have the safekeeping to protect Fynn. And hopefully they just dirtle around with their mana in the early game to where I can just play Fynn turn 2 and not worry about removal just yet. Yep. Well, mana dork from Incubation Druid. I'm going to hold up safekeeping from this point on, though. Even though I could be curving out better, we'll start curving out safer. Alright, 2 poison counters to our opponent to start things off. 1/5 of the way there. Abundant Harvest, they can draw a land or non-land, whichever kind they need. Choose a non-land card, and Finale of Devastation it is. That's going to be pretty big later in the game, doesn't do much for now. Alright. Nice big flying Death Touch card. It'll be a very sweet play next turn. I feel like I'm still going to play it safe though, so I might be tapping the Deathbloom Gardener to play the Kura. They have the mana to play Golos, so they are going to play Golos here. Grab a land out of the deck. If Golos dies, they can just recast Golos because they've pulled a land out here and they just need to play another untapped land. Still feel like it's decent to do that though, because if Golos doesn't die, they're just going to spin the wheel with the casting 3 cards off the top for free ability. Don't really want that to happen, so I think we just jam in. Alright, well, we'll safekeeping then if they're going to trade into Fynn. Then play Rhonas instead. Next turn, by playing Kura, we will have a creature on the board big enough to allow Rhonas to attack. And they're at 6 out of 10 poison. We just need to hit them with 2 more Death Touchers with Fynn on the board. Would have been reasonable to also just go for Song of Freyalise there to get closer to setting up Death Touch Trample for a nice finishing turn. Because again, it's just really hard to block the future Death Touch Trample. Alright, that wasn't bad. That was a board wipe that pretty much just killed Deathbloom Gardener and made us recast Fynn. I guess I could just hit them for 10 by playing the other Rhonas. I don't I'm not opposed to that. Okay, we'll just hit for 10. Just cuz. Let's do some regular damage. That's really cool how the two Rhonases work together like that. Oracle of the Alpha is the play. I hope I don't just win off of combat damage again, but it's possible. Death Touch Trample is ridiculous, and Rhonas can give the other Rhonas trample, so we'll be Death Touch Trample to get over for a boatload of damage. 7 mana. I can replay Fynn and still use Rhonas' buff ability, which is probably the line. If they block God-Eternal Rhonas, they're in a really, really bad spot. If they block Rhonas the Indomitable, they're still not doing well. But I don't get to do the Death Touch Trample trick, and sorry about my stomach, if you can hear that. It's grumbling. Getting towards lunchtime. Recording in the morning today. Yeah, if they block God-Eternal Rhonas, we put them to 1. If they block like this, I'll just go ahead and play Song of Freyalise. Oh wait, no, if they block God-Eternal Rhonas, they're just dead to Finn's ability. But yeah, if they block like that, I can't kill them either way, so might as well get the Song down. Get closer to giving the whole board Vigilance Indestructible Trample on a later turn. And they're in a position now where if they kill Fynn, I can just recast Fynn, still threaten the 10th poison. They drew into their Black Lotus from the Oracle of the Alpha. That is fancy. A lot of mana to toy around with here. We'll see if it is enough to save them. They're very close to dying to poison or regular combat damage. Replay Golos. They're dead on board. They have 1 mana up. I don't know what they could have here for 1 mana. They're dead on board. Maybe nothing. Probably nothing. I'll just attack with everybody holding up Rhonas' ability. Could also go for pre-combat access tunnel. Plenty of ways to threaten lethal here. Block Fynn, they're going to take 10 and 10 poison, so I guess we'll do both. Technically, Finn's ability doesn't go on the stack because they already died to the combat damage. But it would have. If they survived the combat damage, they would have gotten 2 more poison counters and died to poison as well. So technically, strictly speaking, that's 2 wins off of regular combat damage, but I'm going to count that as both. Because they would have also had 10 poison. That's like a double victory. 2 Rhonases in a row is just insane. They do play pretty well together. Here we are now against a green-blue ramp deck. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, is the commander. Very, very good ramp commander. Because on turn 3 you can gain 3 life, draw a card, play an additional land, which makes it so Uro goes right back to the command zone, costs 2 more to cast, but you've played an additional land drop that turn, so if you just play 1 land the turn after you do that, you can immediately do it again, gain 3 more life, draw another card, put another land into play, and you can keep looping Uro like that, where if there's nothing better to do, you can just go Uro turn 3, Uro turn 4, and be quite a bit ahead in terms of cards and lands on board. So, very cool commander from our opponent. Tempted to keep this, because we do have the Basilisk Collar to go with the non-Death Touchers here. Feel like I should still mulligan, though. We don't have any protection for Fynn, we don't have any removal, and we don't have any natural Death Touchers. Usually like to have at least one of those things, so yeah, we'll take the free mulligan. Historic Brawl, nice and chill, gives us those free moles. This is super awkward. No creatures outside of Fynn here. I don't think it's worth a mole to 6, but I could see this hand panning out pretty poorly for us. We'll have to see what we draw. Well, there we go. We've got a Death Toucher. Daggerback Basilisk now to play after Fynn. Our opponent's on green-blue, so they probably don't have a ton of super efficient removal. They'll have probably all those bite spells like we do. Maybe some counter spells and stuff. But most of green's removal requires them to have creatures on board, so I think I'm just going to slam Fynn down while they're tapped out, rather than holding up Ranger's Guile at all points early game. And they are really a ramp deck here, really a landfall deck. Now they have Druid class gaining them life as they play lands, and letting them play additional lands when they level it up. Ooh, Selvala, Heart of the Wilds, very powerful with Uro, because Uro is a 6-mana creature, well, a 6-power creature, guaranteeing that's probably going to be the biggest creature every time they play it. So they can play Uro, and in full control mode, they play Uro, draw the card off Selvala, use Selvala to get 6 mana. Just not having removal for the Selvala with the Selvala-Uro combo is probably going to result in our downfall relatively quickly here, because they are going to have 9 mana next turn now if they play a land. I guess 3 of it does have to be spent on Uro, but still they get to make a very explosive play here, because you can tap Selvala before Uro sacrifices itself to get the 6 mana off Selvala. And they guaranteed draw the card off of Uro plus the card off of Selvala. So this is going to be explosive. Gain 3 life, draw a card. Grab the extra land drop from Uro. The extra life gain from Druid class. Selvala now tapping for 6 mana in any combination of colors, going for triple blue, triple green, and drawing the extra card for playing the biggest creature on the board. They can even just immediately recast Uro, gain 3 more life, draw 2 more cards, play another land again, and just have a million mana ready. They're going to go for Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. A self-mill win condition. It can also mill me if they want. Not really worried about that. Yeah, self-mill it's going to be. They could be one of the like Omniscience card draw combo decks that's just planning to draw out their entire library. Again, if they're self-milling with Jace, that's probably their plan. So our opponent's doing some really explosive stuff here. That's for sure. This is their turn 4, I think. This is our turn 3. Got a Reclamation Sage to at least blow up the Druid class, but we still haven't had any removal that can kill Selvala, which means they get to do tremendously explosive things again next turn. Could go Provisioner, play a land, get a treasure, don't blow up Druid class. Yeah, I don't think Druid class is that horrible for us, because we don't care about their life total. So maybe just getting treasure tokens set up, really just running up the mana count really quickly is better. They're probably okay with jumping with Llanowar Elves because they have so much mana otherwise still. Ooh, they do have Blast Zone. That could end up blowing up a lot of our cards later. All of our 3-drops. If I go Provisioner, have Basilisk and Provisioner on board. Alright. See, the nice thing about the Fynn deck, even though it's not doing anything all that crazy in comparison to what a lot of the crazier decks like our opponent's deck can do here, even in the games where we're going to lose, we usually get to hit our opponent to like 6 poison or something, which still feels good. It's like 60% of the way there. Like, we did things, even if I just get completely comboed out and die next turn. We tried. We were on the way. Just needed to put 4 more poison counters on our opponent. Okay, mill themselves 2 and draw a card. Again, the Jace's static abilities, if they ever have no cards in their library and they draw a card, they will win the game. And Omniscience is a very powerful, incredibly expensive blue card that I believe is on Arena. That's it's like 9 mana or something, and it makes all of your spells free. That's one of the easiest ways in a deck like this to get there. They could just recast Uro forever. Omniscience might just be cards in your hand. I think it's actually just cards in your hand, so you couldn't loop Uro endlessly, but you could just play a bunch of card draw spells for free like you would do in an Omniscience draft. It's one of the classic kind of Tachova win conditions, because you have all the cards that like search your library for 2 lands, put them to play tapped. And if you can cast those spells for free with Tachova on board, you're drawing cards every time you hit those lands and doing some crazy stuff. Alright, so they've got an Uro from the grave to the board as just a permanent 6/6. Now they can get all of their Selvala mana. Wayward Swordtooth, play extra lands. Really hoping we top deck a land here. If we do, we could really find lethal here. I guess I have Elvish Mystics, so I can still do it. But the plan is to Glorious Sunrise, give the board +1/+1 trample, and if they don't block our Death Touchers correctly, then they super die to Fynn's ability. So that's the plan here. That's our best bet. We're not going to win a long game here. Let's go for a quick victory if we can. So we play Glorious Sunrise. Going to give our board +1/+1 trample when we go to combat. Put the Basilisk Collar on the Provisioner. Holding up the 1 green mana for Ranger's Guile. Go to combat. Everybody gets +1/+1 trample. Actually, on board, they're already dead. We don't even need the combat trick. Because they just don't have enough creatures to block all this Death Touch. Because of Death Touch trample. So, Glorious Sunrise for the Death Touch trample victory here. Just get 4 poison counters on them. Yeah, trample over for 3, put 2 poison counters on you. Trample over for 1, put 2 poison counters on you. Putting 6 poison counters on our opponent here. And that's game. Death Touch, trample. We at 12 poison counters now. Alright, that was a sweet one. That was toxic stuff from Fynn the Fangbearer against the Uro deck. Opponent did some really cool, really rampy stuff there. Had a ton of mana, but Death Touch Trample gets those surprise victories with Fynn. Another game here. Now we're playing against Yorn, God of Winter, a snow-based deck here. Green, blue, and black. They can play the front half to be able to untap all their snow permanents as they attack, getting a bunch more mana, or the back half to keep replaying snow permanents from their graveyard. So, pretty flexible commander here. We'll see how they built around it. Like to keep this hand. Rhonas, double Rhonas was really powerful last time. And of course, if we can do that again, that'll be quite fun. And we've got a good amount of creatures here. Llanowar Elves ramping us up. Venom Connoisseur being a death-touching attacker every turn that we play a creature. And a Heroic Intervention to protect Fynn when we have enough mana. which is not quite yet. Let's go Venom Connoisseur plus Sedge Scorpion. And if I top deck a land, then I can play Fynn and still hold up Heroic Intervention, which will be great. We'll also hit for 4 poison the turn we do that, because Connoisseur will get Death Touch. Now I can hold up Tamiyo's Safekeeping instead, so I'll still just play Fynn here. Hit for 4 poison. And if they just play an Arcane Signet or something next turn, they just die to poison on turn 3. Which is absurd. Like, if they just play the Cauldron here, they're just dead on board to poison. Or if they try to cast a removal spell. I guess I have to top deck land. So they play Yorn. So they are not going to die to poison, but they are going to have to block with Yorn. Oh, I guess I don't have to top deck a land. I can play Rhonas. But if I play Rhonas, then I'm not protecting Fynn with Safekeeping. I guess we just don't attack with Fynn then. We just play Rhonas and send in these two. If I attack everybody, they just block Fynn, go to 2 poison. 2 poison away from death, I should say. Yeah, we don't have the mana to recast Fynn right now, so I'm not gonna send Fynn in. Alright. They're at 8 out of 10 poison. We have the Plane-Wide Celebration, so even if they try to control us out of the rest of this game, if we ever make it to 7 mana, if they don't have a counterspell up, we can just proliferate 2 times. Put them to 10 poison. We did top deck a land that turn. That turn would have been absolutely brutal because we could have attacked with everybody, Yorn would be dead, and we would have just used Safekeeping on Fynn on the attack. Duress, well there goes Safekeeping, most likely. They could also choose Heroic Intervention. Alright, there goes Heroic Intervention. Do they have the cheap removal to get rid of Fynn, or are they just dead? Send in Yorn. And tap all their mana. That is true, they can do that, so it actually doesn't have to be cheap removal. Tear Asunder on Fynn it is. If I top deck a land, we still win. And there you go. That was the fastest poison one we've gotten. That was ridiculous. Kind of one of those things that shows that not just with Phyrexia all will be one will this deck be getting stronger, but just as they print more efficient 1 and 2 mana Death Touchers, curve outs like that will happen just even more consistently. That's the biggest problem with the deck right now, is that because there's not like a million Death Touchers, it's not very consistent to play a lot of early game Death Touchers. But just as time progresses, they will print more and more. They'll add more to Arena from older sets. As with many Historic Brawl decks, it's just going to keep getting better and better as time progresses. Here we are now against Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. Don't expect this to be a particularly great matchup for us. It's a very controlling deck, generally. Teferi, of course, the kind of headliner for blue-white control, was an absolute monster in Standard in his heyday. We'll keep this. We've got the Cobra, which is not a super efficient Death Toucher, but could be. And Vanquisher is actually very efficient because we do have the Druid in the hand. We'll just have to not play the Mana Dork first, which is awkward, but probably worth it. Questing Beast is incredible. One of the best creatures in this entire deck, because it's just a great stat line all around, even if you didn't care about the Death Touch. This is 100% a counterspell from our opponents. They've got double blue up for natural original counterspell, so we'll just play Mana Dork here and do some setup. Anti-cognition it is. Don't really need to read the mountain of text there. It's just counter our creature. And that is just going to keep happening here. So we play Cobra plus Fynn this turn. We play Cobra, they're not going to counter it because they know we can cast Fynn afterwards if I play my land for turn. I don't think I'm even trying to draw a counterspell from them. I think we just play Cobra and then they let it resolve and then we just hit for 3. We're like, okay. I don't think this is a matchup where we're going to be able to pull out every counterspell from their hand. Because their commander is a card draw engine that also untaps the lands to be able to hold up their counterspells. So they're probably running every single 2-mana counterspell on Arena because they draw a card and then untap the 2 lands to hold up the counter. Bounce the Vanquisher. Well, now we gotta cross their fingers and hope they don't have the one mana counterspell that can get Fynn, which is Wash Away. That is one of their 100 cards. None of the others can do it. Unless they're running Pact of Negation, but they don't have the mana to pay for it, so let's see. Well, they had the 1 out of 100 there. I think it was the correct play, because there's only, again, 1 card in their entire deck that could have countered Fynn there for 1 mana. They just happened to have it. Yeah, there's not a lot we can do against control with this deck, I'll be super honest with you. Not a lot of decks can do against this kind of just hard control. We just keep casting stuff and eventually hope they run out of counters, but the problem with Teferi is they never will once Teferi hits the board. Questing Beast is really good against Teferi though, so if I can get anything to resolve... Oh my god, they did run out of counters. Just immediately passed, letting us play the Vanquisher. Well, maybe we get there. Maybe they just have Negate in hand. They have the counter non-creatures for 2. It still feels like probably a bad matchup, but I guess we get to see. I think I would still rather them counter Fynn than Questing Beast, but the problem is if they don't have the counter right now and I just play Fynn, I'm just giving them 2 more draws to get it. If I play Questing Beast, I kill Teferi, and they have to spend all their mana recasting it. Okay, they did not hit a counterspell. So, Questing Beast kills the Teferi.
Enough. Let me know if you're up for round 2.
I'm going to keep this Sedge Scorpion. There are a lot of board wipes on Arena. I don't want to extend too much more onto the board. Yep, there's the board wipe. Alright. So that's why they didn't have counterspells. They've got board wipes in the hand. Well, I am 1 mana away from Craterhoof Behemoth, and we get our commander down while they don't have any counter mana up. There's a Blast Zone at the ready. That can blow up our Sedge Scorpion. They put more counters on it, they can make it blow up Fynn or any higher mana cost cards. There's the 6 mana Teferi, holding up 2 mana for a potential OG counterspell. Smell Fear, I could fight something, that's all I can do. There's nothing to fight. I can't kill Teferi no matter what, I think we just hit them for 4 poison. Could put Teferi to 3 so they can't minus Teferi. But they're probably just going to plus anyway. Would a land have killed them there? +3/+3 till end of turn? Yes. If we had a land and they still didn't draw the counterspell, they would have just been dead. So we would have hit for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. But now they've drawn into the Wrath of God. Craterhoof can still win a game out of nowhere. You never know here. We'll do what we can. Ooh, they should proliferate the poison counter. Aw. They didn't proliferate the poison counter. They are one loyalty away from ultimating us. And then we are definitely a goner. Because they just exile any permanent whenever they draw a card. That includes lands.
To the good part.
Borrow time on Fynn. Yep. Yeah, once Teferi gets going, it's just really unlikely that you get to resolve anything because they're drawing 2 cards a turn to make it twice as likely they hit their answers. March of Otherworldly Light to exile the Fauna Shaman. Memory Deluge to draw 2 more cards out of their top 4. Alright, immediately ult Teferi, and we are definitely out of it. Was waiting to see if they were going to get greedy with Teferi and go for another plus, and then I feel like even if they did, though, they've got a full hand. They just tutored for the best 2 cards out of their top 4. Super unlikely that we're going to get anywhere in the end here. That went a lot better than I thought it was going to. They actually did run out of counterspells in the early game, so if they didn't hit one to counter Craterhoof Behemoth, there was one turn there where we had an opportunity to top deck a land and find the win, which is way farther than I thought we were going to get. Again, one of the biggest issues for the Fynn deck here that I do want to show off this game for sure is that it is very reliant on the commander. So you have the same bad matchups as most decks that are super reliant on the commander. But yeah, this deck really, really, really does not do much without Fynn on the board. So if your opponent has tons of cheap removal spells, board wipes, counter spells, that kind of stuff, it's going to be a rough matchup, and that is just the name of the game for decks like Blue-White Control. So yeah, still got surprisingly close. Again, I mean, they were at 11 life, 4 poison, doesn't look that close, but we did have that one turn of maybe if we top decked a land and they hadn't top decked a counter spell, maybe we could have got a Craterhoof win that game. And regardless, got a lot more things done in the early game than I thought I would. Got a kill on Teferi with Questing Beast. Some decent work done by the deck, even if it is a definite loss there. Here we are now for another game against 5-color good stuff, this time Joda the Unifier. We've been playing against a lot of 5-color good stuff. They're different commanders, though. Played against Golos, played against Prismatic Bridge, now we're playing against Joda. This is the legendary focused one, where every time they cast a legendary, they get to cascade into another one. We have a very good hand here. I guess the problem is I can't play Vanquisher on turn 2 without leaving the Blightblade in my hand, so I don't get to curve out how I want to of Blightblade into Vanquisher into Fynn. But I can go Vanquisher into Fynn plus Blightblade as my turn 3. Super awkward to top deck the elf there. Now I guess I could have just went turn 1 Blightblade. We'll go ahead and play the Vanquisher. Reveal the elf that I'm more likely to play sooner, because if I hit a land, I'm going to go Fynn Blightblade. Cold Steel Heart turn 2. Opponent's just setting up their Joda mana, as you do. Did not hit the land here, so I think I just play Fynn. start getting poison going. Arcane Signet, they definitely have Jodah mana next turn. Cultivate as well, they have well over enough mana for Jodah next turn. We drop Blightblade here, and that's all the Death Touchers we can afford, so we can just hold up Heroic Intervention. If they want to try to board wipe, we can stop it with Intervention. If they use targeted removal, we can stop it with Intervention. And then if they just play Jodah, we just ram through and kill them with poison next turn. Tolsimir, Friend to Wolves, plays multiple blockers, and lets the wolf fight something, right? Fight the Fynn, we go Heroic Intervention here. Although ram through works as well if I just ram the wolf. I think I'd rather Heroic Intervention. Because then if they try to do anything else, it doesn't work this turn. Cool. So if I can hit them with 2 of these poisonous cards, I can find that lethal. I can play a Sedge Scorpion and ram through something. I feel like I'm going to attack with everybody and just ram through whatever blocks Fynn. Well, I guess I could just not attack with Fynn and then save ram through. Just take the trades with the other Death Touchers. Yeah, but just going for the ram through attack here, make sure we can just clear the whole board. Interesting. Well, put them to 8 poison. So even if they kill Fynn here, we're getting close to finding proliferate victories later. Obviously, if they don't kill Fynn, they're in a really bad spot. There's 4 poisonous creatures. Fossa to use on Tolsimir will kill Fynn, but if I top deck a land, they're still dead, because they'll have 3 blockers on the board. I guess I'll have 3 poisonous attackers. They could block with everybody, but we do get to wipe the board if we hit the land here. Alright, land off the top, let's go. Rough. Guess I'm on Fauna Shaman now. But they just get to Tolsimir away, my best creature, every turn now. Probably Tolsimir away the Fauna Shaman. No, this is feeling like they're getting pretty stable. We just sit here and wait to draw our proliferators. Obviously, Fauna Shaman can tutor for them. But if they kill Fauna Shaman, we're just going to sit here in top deck mode, give them the time to stabilize, so we'll have to draw very well here. Draw the perforators quickly. See what they fight now. Fight the Elvish Mystic. Okay, I get to keep Fauna Shaman then. That is not going to be a good time for our opponent. Play the Venom Connoisseur past the turn, because there's no 2-mana card I really want to play with Fauna Shaman currently. Because I think I want to hit... 41% of our deck right now is lands, so I'm pretty sure I want to hit Evolution Sage off of Fauna Shaman. So we just play Connoisseur and then we grab the Evolution Sage during their end step. Then they maybe don't kill the Fauna Shaman. Right, because if I just Fauna Shaman for something I can cast this turn, it's going to be my 2-mana card that proliferates. I'm going to put them to 9 poison, but then they're definitely going to kill Fauna Shaman. Yeah, I think we want to hit our 1 card that can actually potentially proliferate twice. And I guess they'll just kill that with Tolsimir anyway. But if I wait to Fauna Shaman until the end step, it's possible I can pick up both. Alright, Ruinous Blast, good for you. Bad for me. So we Fauna Shaman now. This sucks, because if I Evolution Sage, I'm still only going to be able to do it once. So I guess I need to grab the 2-mana one. Grab the Pollen Bright Druid here, because now I could play Pollen Bright Druid and my other 2-mana Proliferate card. My Fight spell. I'm going to have to get there very quickly, though. Alright, well, I think I have like 5 outs in the deck. Karn's Bastion, Bloom Hulk, the Fight spell that proliferates. That's 3 outs. That might be it. Just those the 3 proliferators, because the 7-mana one I obviously can't do right now. But I know I have those 3. Okay, Valkyrie is fine. It doesn't really do anything because none of my proliferate targets my opponent. They're just going to kill Pollen Bright Druid in the end step with Thassa anyway, so we chump block the maximum amount of damage. Alright, fingers crossed. Proliferate spell one time. Snakeskin Veil, not gonna do it. Super close game there, got them to 9 poison, but a big stabilization from the 5-color Legends Good Stuff deck is gonna destroy us in the end. Here we are now against Tameshi Reality Architect, which allows them to replay artifacts and enchantments from their graveyard. Actually just puts them right back on the battlefield, as well as drawing them a card when they do that, because they have to bounce a land to their hand, so... Pretty powerful graveyard recursion commander. See what kind of spice our opponent has built around here. Let's get our Underdark Basilisk down. Get some Death Touchers out before we drop Fynn. This Druid is an elf, so Warmaster plus Pollen Bite Druid could put a lot of elves on the board, and then a Saryth to give the whole board Death Touch can be pretty explosive later. I think it would be mana efficient for now. Just offer the trade for the Oracle. They are going to just immediately take the trade, and then we drop the Basilisk and pass the turn. Next turn we'll play Fynn and Elvish Warmaster probably. There's Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle. When they cast historic spells, they return creatures with mana value 3 or less. Well, that explains the insta-trade from our opponent. Didn't really read that they were going to have Teshar in hand. Alright, 2 poison counters to our opponent. Now they can just play Tameshi and replay the Oracle of the Alpha. Oracle of the Alpha has to be one of the most popular cards on Arena instantaneously, just as soon as it got printed. Like it just has to be. I want to go Pollen Bright Druid and Narnam Renegade. This Warmaster, I want to get the board state of elves as wide as possible and then play Saryth for like surprise lethal. I think that's the game plan. I only get one extra elf from War Master each turn, but if I play both this turn, I can play Saryth next turn. Yeah, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be lethal. They have 3 blockers on this board, and as soon as they play another historic spell, they can just rebounce Oracle if they go for a trade here. But, I don't know, I can do this and still hold up Snakeskin Veil, so I'm gonna do it here. Skyclave Apparition, well that's definitely what we're gonna Snakeskin Veil. Now a search for Escanta. So if I play Saryth, I guarantee that I hit my opponent for 4 poison to put them at 7 total. Could just start using Access Tunnel here. Also pretty reasonable. Could also play the Adversary. It's another elf. 2 elves on the board, and I have something really good to Access Tunnel in the future. I'm gonna go for that here. Fingers crossed they're out of removal here. Play another creature or draw a spell or something, and then we go Saryth next turn. If they just play a bunch of card draw with Wizard class or something, then Saryth does threaten lethal. Because they have 4 blockers, we'll have 8 attackers. If we hit them with 4 creatures, which is what we would be doing, then we would put them to 11 poison counters. Alright, let's see if they have a counterspell for Saryth here. That looks like a yes. They didn't have the counterspell, they would just be dead here, so I think it's the right play to just go for it. Well, maybe not a counterspell here. They would have just slam dunk immediately countered this. Maybe it's instant speed interaction to kill Fynn. Yep. Also a rough one. But I can replay Fynn next turn. Yeah, not a huge point in attacking when I can't get poison counters right now anyway. We'll just take all the 1 damage hits. This is pretty in flavor for Phyrexial will be one. Our opponent's got to be living in fear here seeing this. They do have the removal for Saryth though, which does suck for us. I really need to hit more lands to get this Craterhoof, so I'm just going to start access tunneling this Adversary. I guess if I play Deathbloom Gardener, I'm at 6 out of 8. I guess we play that. It's also an elf for Craterhoof. Well, for War Master to make a token to make Craterhoof even bigger. This might be kind of a boring way to win if we do resolve Craterhoof, because it's going to be just a natural combat damage win. If we get there, which we're definitely not guaranteed to. What is this? Bounce one of our cards and they get a duplicate to their hand? Okay. Now Tameshi's going to return this conundrum thingy. I don't even know what it does. Draws them a card when it hits the board is probably the important part. I can't play additional lands. I can't do any extra ramp. Okay, that's pretty much it. This is not a land. 4, 5, 6. 4 mana to access tunnel. Like for land here, play Elvish Warmaster at worst. If I hit a land, I play Warmaster plus Basilisk Collar. Jesus. Alright, Warmaster it is. Pass the turn. I will get there eventually, Craterhoof, but not until my opponent has 4 counterspells in their hand. Oof, Ancestral Recall from the Oracle of the Alpha, Mox Pearl from the Oracle of the Alpha. River's Rebuke. Alright, well, we have lost. I'll let them play it out here because this is going to be the last game of Magic for today's video. But they kill us in 2 swings, pretty much guaranteed. Yeah. Could not hit enough of our mana dorks for the Craterhoof here. Opponent's got a lot of interaction, which we're not super good against. Sure, there was a better way to recast the hand, but I'm just trying to speed up our demise. Just going through the motions here for the next swing. Or if my opponent's just going to dirtle around into a bunch of other combos and stuff, I might scoop. I do want to let them get the kill here. Just not if it's going to take a long time. Okay. Give them one more dirtle before I scoop them up. Hitting for 6 a turn in the sky. I've got nothing to remove flyers. There's the Teshar, bounces one of our cards, slows us down again. Yeah, we're dead here. And it's taken a while. So we'll scoop them up. So, pretty good example of the things that this deck can and can't do here. The deck falls very flat against a lot of cheap interaction in general, as well as the deck does have the potential to hit some really dead draws as well. It's not a super consistent strategy with the amount of Death Touchers currently on Arena, but I think it's a pretty fun deck. Good deck for just getting an idea of what poison counters are going to be like pretty soon in Historic Brawl, and they're going to be even better very, very quickly. Again, tons more Proliferate cards being the huge thing. There's a ton more Proliferate coming in for Exial will be one, and the new Toxic mechanic can provide a lot of poison counters. There's a lot more pretty threatening ways to build around the poison counter mechanic coming up soon, and for Exial will be one, so pretty excited for that. Probably will build a super scary poison commander out of the new set at some point, but until then, this is the best we got, and it's still pretty fun, even if it is not the best deck in the format by a lot. So that is today's video. If you want to see some more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to have the YouTube algorithm send you some more in your recommended feeds. You can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below, where you can hang out with me live. And you can check out the Patreon link in the description below if you'd like to support the channel directly. Outside of that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.